like to call to order the Board of Education meeting for Monday, December 11th. If you'd all stand and recite the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the
flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
I'm not sure whether to be pleased or concerned that everybody knew what I was going to say. We have all members present except for Brian Mushik. He is at his daughter's last basketball game for the season, and so he will be in as soon as that game is over. We need an adoption of the agenda, including the supplemental personnel report.
I make a motion for approval of the agenda.
Second.
All right, we've got a motion by Tammy and a second by Barbara. All in favor? 6-0. And Brian did let me know that he reviewed the bills and everything seems to be in order, so I will go ahead and make that motion to approve the bills.
A second.
All right, motion by Lisa and a second by Tammy. All in favor? 6-0. All right, now we have a couple special presentations. We have Katie Corwin and Jason Richens. Each of the 7 districts within the Kansas Music Educators Association, KMEA, selects outstanding choir, band, and elementary educators. Nominees must receive 10 letters of recommendation and have 5 years' experience. Dodge City Public School has not only 1 nominee, but 2. Katie Corwin, music teacher at Ross, was named Southwest Kansas Outstanding Elementary Music Educator by KMEA, and Jason Richens, Dodge City High School Band Director, was named Southwest Kansas Outstanding High School Music Educator. Both educators were recognized December 2nd at the Southwest Kansas Music Educators Association. Congratulations.
Thank you. Soon to be joined with Lieutenant Hand.
Oh, thank you. We were at that conference.
And the proud parents all take pictures.
35.
This is better.
You're about 33% of the way there.
Congratulations, guys. Congratulations.
My kids had Jason as a band instructor, and then I was a roommate with Katie when the band went to Disney World, so that's kind of cool. All right, next up we've got Stuco Reports, Leah Stein with Dodge City High School.
Good evening. Last meeting, I talked to you all about the floor show, it took place last Thursday. We had student council members that judged and kind of helped organize that, so that went well. Also last meeting, I mentioned that we were trying to increase the student involvement at basketball games. And so last game, we had a pretty good turnout. We tried to get kids to come. We had pizza between the girls and boys game. We had a halftime game where they played knockout, and then we had some gift cards and stuff to give out to the winners. And then every game we're trying to figure out a theme and have it ready about a week in advance. So then we put that on over the announcements, which are also new. We're having one of our Stuco members over the intercom announce every week. So that happens every Monday during opportunity period. They just go on the intercom and kind of tell the whole student body what's going on. So they mentioned the theme, and the theme for this week is Red Out. So that will be the theme for the basketball game. And then also the student council is having a contest where the students can submit nickname suggestions for the field house. So whether it's Demon Den or something, we're just trying to get a nickname. That's kind of a fun thing that's going on. And submissions for that are due next Wednesday. So those are just a few of the updates that we have for the high school student council. Do you all have any questions? All right, thank you.
Thanks, Leah.
She is so cute.
All right, next up, we have Efren Martinez from Comanche Middle School.
Okay. Hear ye, hear ye. You are all invited to the Renaissance Art Fair at Comanche Middle School, Tuesday, December 19th, from 5 o'clock p.m. to 6:30 p.m. The Renaissance Fair will include students' artwork, drama presentation, fun activities led by students, and enchanting refreshments. On November 20th, in the evening, Sean Redia, math magician, came to CMS to put on a magic show for anyone that attended. There were several people that showed up, and it was a night of fun and math magic. On November 20th first, the Cosmosphere came to Comanche to teach us about space. We learned about Apollo 13, made ice cream, and launched a rocket trash can. We had a Christmas dance held last Friday. There were over 100 people that were there. We drank hot chocolate, ate cookies, and danced. It cost $2 or a canned food item to attend. $200 were raised, and there were 2 boxes full of canned food items they would both go donated to the Salvation Army. The 8th grade class raised $365 to a can drive that would be also donated to the Salvation Army. Next Wednesday, we will hold our school-wide Christmas party. We will have a dodgeball tournament, bingo, and fun activities. We will then be dismissed for Christmas break. The CMS and DCMS girls basketball game is playing right now at the CMS gym. DCMS gym. Good luck to our girls. Do you have any question?
Could you tell us again, December 19th, what time?
5 o'clock p.m. to 6:30 p.m.
Okay.
Any other questions?
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right, next up, we have Anthony Valente from Dodge City Middle School.
Good evening. As we come to the holiday season, the DCMS Music Department will have several concerts. On December 5th, the 7th and 8th grade honor band and honor choir, performed their annual holiday concert. The 6th grade orchestra will be performing their very first concert on December 14th. The 8th grade band also joined with Comanche to perform in the Parade of Lights. Also, on December 20th, the whole music department will join together to do an in-school concert. Unfortunately, DCMS has a student suffering from leukemia. With this in mind, we are trying to do everything we can to help the family. All the students have been donating their spare change to the cause to help raise money. Also, this year's annual dodgeball tournament is donating all the money that is raised to the family. The Salvation Army is also in need of food this holiday season, and Student Council is putting on a food drive from December 11th through December 15th to help out. The school goal is to bring in 2,000 non-perishable food items. In 8th grade problem solving, the students will do a project where they research a career. They will make posters and prepare a presentation complete with career attire on their career. On December 15th, they will host a career fair for the 6th graders to attend to learn about different career options. The 6th graders will then do reflections on the different presentations. Any questions?
That sounds really good. Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony.
Good job.
All right, recognition of visitors. Persons may present ideas or concerns regarding USD 443 schools. No action will be taken by the board at this meeting. Personalities and behavior of employees are not to be presented during this period, but are to be reported to the employee's immediate supervisor. The president shall determine the amount of time to be spent for citizen participation. If you'd like to address the board, please do so now. Nope, seeing nobody, we'll move right on. Next up, we have the consent agenda. We have the approval of personnel, including the supplemental personnel report, approval of minutes from our November 27th meeting, approval of the Community Foundation of Southwest Kansas Grant Award for the SPED vocational program at DCHS and at the therapeutic education, and then the STEM camp grant. And then also the approval of the Early Learning Kansas grant application for Bright Beginnings.
Make a motion to approve the consent agenda?
Tracy, a motion by Tracy and a second by Barbara. All in favor? 6-0. All right, on to new business. Curriculum and instruction. We've got the update on the full-day Head Start classrooms at Sunnyside.
Good evening. We just wanted to put that in there as a reminder. Last school year, as part of the dosage and duration Head Start grant, where they were extending the day for some of the classrooms from part day to full day, they were going to put 2 full-day classrooms at Bright Beginnings and then 3 at Sunnyside. And due to some of the construction and some of the Head Start requirements, it delayed that construction piece, and it started a little bit later than originally planned. And so we put 3 full-day classrooms at Bright Beginnings and held off on the other 2 to make the 5 total. So just as a reminder, last year when we were planning on it, you guys had approved those positions, but we will go ahead and we're moving forward with the 3 new classrooms at Sunnyside for next school year. So there will be 3 full-day classrooms there and then 2 full-day with the other part-day sessions at Bright Beginnings. And so we will be hiring some new staff to fill those positions. But those were part of approvals from last year, but since it's been a little while, we wanted just to bring that back to your attention.
Great.
Do you have any questions? Okay.
Worked well.
Okay. Next up, we have the approval of the Head Start carryover application. Tammy and Debbie, it says.
For the approval of the carryover, we actually brought some information. Bill helped bring the information, I believe it was in August. And our Head Start office wanted to make sure that the minutes reflected that the board was aware that this was a carryover of funds from the 2016-17 budget that we've applied, that we're asking for permission to apply to the 17-18 budget. And they needed the specific wording to say that the board recognizes that it's a carryover from the 16-17 grant year to the 17-18 grant year.
Okay.
So is there anything else that I need to add, Bill?
No, it's just the crazy federal government's the best way I can explain this. You've already approved the money, you know what's going on, but it wasn't in the board consideration sheet. And we did actually run this by the person at Head Start. They said, oh, this is great, this is exactly what we need, so please approve it, we'll get on down.
Okay, I have a motion for approval.
Second.
All right, motion by Tammy and a second by Ryan. All in favor? 6-0. All right, then the Head Start review information materials.
Yes. In your board packet, you should have had a Head Start review information with some hot links in that to give you as a reference the Head Start Act and the Head Start Program Performance Standards. Last time I referred to that sort of as the Head Start Bible. Not that you would be required to read all of that. We'll update you on the standards and be in charge of carrying those out in the program. But as a area of reference, if you would care to go through or to either of those, the ACT or the Head Start Program Performance Standards, then you'd have it available. We're looking to have that able for you to be able to access that on your Good Reader as well. And then our Head Start regional team lets us know information that they think that our governing board should be aware of, especially with the review team coming. And so a couple of those items are the Head Start program management wheel, which a lot of times, as I'm sharing this with our staff, I just say that it's a lot of stuff that we see maybe even in KISA or just in, as we're looking at business systems, that it's a systems approach model that they're using to help everyone understand that there are many different systems in place for the services to work, and the goal is providing quality child and family outcomes. And so on the program management wheel, it gives some guiding questions that governing boards might want to be aware of, and if you have any questions with that, I'd be happy to answer those. And then the other one is the acronyms, and so a lot of times, just like in education world, you may hear letters just thrown out, and that gives an idea of what those letters refer to in the Head Start world. What questions do you have? Thank you.
Thanks, Debbie. All right, I gotta get back. Give me just a second here. Ray knows he's on, so he's gonna go to the podium. Yes, we're approval of Apple laptops for the new high school academic wing.
Good evening, board members, board president, Dr. Dirksen. Several items on page 40. We'll start with the Apple computers. Macintosh laptops or Apple, same thing. These are for the new edition, for the new academic wing. And it is described there, 115 of them for the new academic wing for the high school. We will go ahead and do a 3-year warranty on those things. That includes spills, accidental breakage, so on. That's the first time we did such a massive amount of laptops at the high school, right? So the high school is going to manage those laptops themselves. And as you noticed, the total cost for those 115 laptops are $371,450, or $3,230 each. And the funding is described there. We have reviewed the designated iPad reserve and current budget, and there's plenty of money left over to continue with the iPad initiative if we skip 1 year and take this money out. There's not going to be a shortage to replace iPads if that's what we want to do in the future. I don't expect to replace any iPads for a couple of years as it is. We're in good shape as it is.
And Ray, what's the expectant life for these?
I think I would say more than 6 years. That would be my guess on those. If they're taken care of, they're going to be more than 6 years. Mm-hmm. These machines have 16 gigs of RAM. They have the latest processor in there to handle the animation and all the stuff they want to do. And they have a terabyte solid state drive. So they're taken care of. I don't see a problem with more than 6 years. Do you, Mr. Rankin?
No, I think that's.
But when you say going to manage them themselves, what do you mean by that?
They're going to.
Pardon?
We do all of that in-house already with our Macintosh.
Okay.
They're going to set them up and stuff like that.
Okay.
The difference, guys, for this is we're going to go to laptops rather than the desktops that we've had in the past. Gives our kids more the ability to take their technology to where the work is rather than having to bring the work to the technology.
Mm-hmm.
Makes sense.
When it says extra charger for each laptop, what does that mean?
That means when they take it and they go to a work site, that they'll be able to plug it in if they need to keep it charged, when it's not in the classroom charging.
Okay.
I'll move for approval.
Okay. Second. I have a motion by Ryan and a second by Tammy.
I'm going to recruit myself because it involves
Okay.
classroom.
And Tracy will not, she's going to recuse herself because she likes the guy that's going to teach in that class, I guess. So.
That's the criteria. I can vote then. I mean,
So we have a motion, was it Tammy made the motion and Ryan made the second, all in favor?
Or no, did I make the motion? I made the motion.
Other way around.
Oh, okay. Ryan, you're leading me astray.
Are you just sitting there?
All right, 5-0.
I was doing the motion.
Thank you. All right, the HP computer purchase at the high school.
Okay, this particular project has to do, if you look at the current considerations, the staff at the high school went to a meeting somewhere and they decided this is what the machine they need to continue with their animation. So we got one in for them to try. And I want to mention that so you can see that we thought it out because it's an expensive venture. The main thing for those machines is animation, I believe, correct?
Yes, that's about the only thing for those machines.
Yeah. And again, it's for the new academic wing. This would be the fourth lab for the new academic wing at the high school. Financing is the same from the same iPad reserve. The total cost for this project is $109,481.15. You can see the different bids we got out, and I want you to notice the difference there between some of those bids. That's just the way we have to deal with things sometimes. Questions?
Where's Zones out of? Where are they located? Just my Zones Inc. That's not important.
I wouldn't know right now. I'd have to look it up. There's a folder right there.
No, that's okay.
Homes Incorporated.
Any other questions?
I'll make a motion, we approve the purchase of the HP computers for the high school, the new wing.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion by Jeff and a second by Barbara. All in favor? 6-0. Right. And then next, the E-rate funding information.
Okay, the E-rate funding information has to do with, we've kept you up to date over the years on E-rate funding. Our bandwidth is funded, category 1, 90%. But this particular item is coming to you for the first time I've been here, is to replace switches in the background and make our network work and the access points. And so we have a state-of-the-art network. I outlined there by campus what kind of money we have coming for your information, but these are Category 2 funds. Category 2 means equipment like switches, access points, and stuff like that. We may or may not get it approved, but we're asking in advance because our cost will, if we get, depending how much we get, we have to pay 15% of that. And we'll have current technology monies to do that. So if they approve all this, and we expect what we applied for E-rate to be almost that, because every campus will get a new head-end switch and more switches, a new wireless controller, and some older access point replaced. So I really don't know how much we'll get out of this, but the maximum cost that I see that we will ever have to spend on this project will be $145,000. So I sat down there not to exceed $150,000, which would be our 15% if we get $1 million. So again, I don't know if we're going to get approved or not.
When will you know? When do they make the decision?
Huh?
When do they make the decision?
Sometimes it's really quick, sometimes it took over a year.
Oh, wow.
We don't expect this to go anytime soon, but who knows? We put the application in, so we have to wait 20 days. People are going to give us bids for the equipment we put out there, which is switches for every campus. And if we get approval, then we'll proceed, but it's going to be about a year, I imagine.
Wow.
Make a motion to approve the E-rate funding.
Well, we approving this potential $145,000 in which year's budget?
We can do it out of this year's. If we can't do it out of this year's, we can make funds available next
Well,
year.
Okay,
We can make it work either way, Jeff.
okay. I just wondered about a motion now.
Right.
Okay.
If you want us to, we can bring it back when we actually get the equipment, because we'll probably actually ask you to accept a specific bid.
Right.
Really, this is the authority to go out and do it, and just making sure the board's aware of what our intent is and making it happen.
Okay, but is there will we put you in any bind by not approving it now?
Really, we kind of need the approval, board policy requires grants for the board to approve before we apply for them. This is somewhat of a grant, it's kind of a special grant, but that was kind of the reason we were bringing it to the board.
Okay.
If you want us to, I think.
No, I was just concerned about what budget it was gonna come out of.
Committing to this year's budget, I understand what you're concerned
I
about.
don't expect it to be this year budget problem,
Pardon?
but it could be.
Okay.
I really
Well,
don't
motion's
expect
been
it to
made.
be.
I think you could make a motion to approve the recommendation to bid for the E-rate, and then when we find the approval, then we can approve the amount at a later date.
That'll work. Okay.
You do that?
What is it? So we're making the approval
For the
to
project,
to
to go to bid.
Pursue the E-rate funding.
Right, good. I feel better about that.
So we've got a motion by Tracy. If somebody wants, Ryan makes a second. All in favor? 6-0.
We'll come back with details if they become available.
Sounds good. Thank you, Ray. And then finally, you've got the approval of the adaptive security appliance or firewall upgrade.
The one above that, I think, the disposal of.
Yep, you're right. Thank you. Approval of the disposal of the older iPad 2 devices.
This is the second iPad out from Apple that we purchased. We have 1,202 devices about that we have prepared to give out. In the past, we've given computers out. I believe we're down to 4th grade. And we're proposing we have enough iPads to give to all 2nd grade and 3rd grade students with a charger as is, no question, no warranty, nothing. With your approval, we'll proceed. Or if there's any question or discussion, we can do that too.
Make a motion for approval.
A second?
Motion by Tammy and a second by Barbara. All in favor? 6-0. Now we're ready for the adaptive security appliance or firewall.
This item says 2 devices sitting deep where the network comes in, called firewalls. I've came to one time before in my career here in Dodge City Public Schools. And this time, the reason we want to upgrade is because we need to increase our bandwidth. And the only way we can do that is to upgrade these devices, because everything comes through these devices before they hit your computer. And it's kind of called a firewall, or we can put security measures in, helps us with intrusions, viruses. Nobody can just remote into our machines without us knowing, at least most of the time. There's always a workaround, but they're pretty good devices. Every district, every institution has some of these. We're doing 2 of them in case one goes down, the other takes over, and so on. So the descriptions are there. We did business office procedures. As far as going out for bid, and the bids came in, the lowest, $42,199.23. And we have the money available in technology accounts to proceed upon your approval.
I would make that motion because we are going through the same situation. I'll make a motion, we approve the adaptive security appliance or firewall upgrade.
A second.
Motion by Jeff and a second by Tracy. All in favor? 6-0.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ray.
Thanks, Ray.
All right, next up, Dr. Nance. We've got the approval of CAPERS fees for working after retirement employees.
Good evening, Madam President, board members, Dr. Dirksen. This evening, I wanted to bring to you some information regarding CAPERS regulations that will go into effect January 1st, 2018. Those regulations mean that for retirees that come back to work for the district, they will face some new fees. For the first $25,000 that retiree earns, there will be a fee put on place by CAPERS of 12.01%. After they reach that 25,000 mark, that fee increases to 30%. The idea of doing this by CAPERS is they really don't want us hiring retirees. They want retirees that are participating in taking funds out of the CAPERS system for retirement to just enjoy retirement and not enter back into a CAPERS organization and work again. But the difficult fact for the school district is that sometimes we have positions that are hard to fill. For example, we've had difficulty filling school counselors. We've had difficulty finding a school psychologist. Those hard-to-fill positions can even include bus drivers sometimes because of the odd hours that they're required to work. So we don't utilize a lot of those employees in the district. I think we have 3 certified teacher-type positions and then 9 classified that are all para or bus driver positions. Obviously, we try to fill those with non-retiree candidates when we can. But what we're asking is for the times when we cannot fill those positions and we must utilize those working after retirement individuals, we would propose that of those fees, which are very hefty, the district pay 50% of those fees and the individual absorb the other 50% of those fees. And I included in my information in your packet what I think that would mean this year for the remaining of this year's budget for those 9 or 12, I guess, total individuals. And that amount was almost $16,000, not quite, but almost. And if we use those same individuals kind of with the same pay scale that we're on right now, and we went this 50-50 route on the CAPERS fee, the cost to the district would be about $35,000 in CAPERS fees on top of their pay. So it's not a cheap route to go for sure, but we feel like there are certainly some advantages with experience that makes that sometimes the best alternative in a difficult situation. So my proposal tonight is to approve paying 50% of the CAPERS fees assessed on working after retirement individuals and ask the individual to pick up the other 50%. We have some questions or discussion on that?
Ramona, on the certified, are those long-term positions, or are they just, they're stepping in this year because we couldn't fill the spot?
I'm going to say that these 3 individuals that are teachers have been with the district a while. And so maybe we can look at that and see. They are somewhat difficult positions to fill. Mm-hmm. This is not their first year that they've been with us as a working after retirement individual, but we can, always take a look at that and put those positions out there, post them, seek other applicants and see what happens. I know that's what CAPERS would prefer that we do.
Is there been any movement to petition CAPERS on a formal basis with a lot of schools? Because this is just ignoring, to me, the situation we find ourselves in the state of Kansas and plus in western Kansas. Mm-hmm.
Well,
because, these fees, when you get above $25,000, 30% is crazy.
Yeah, that is a deterrent right there for those working after retirement individuals. And quite honestly, that's how CAPERS intended it to be. The difficulty comes in with our unique situation in recruiting individuals in these hard-to-fill positions in our particular region.
The reality is we've done it to ourselves across the state of Kansas because it was just easy to find a retiree and to put into that position. And so it's kind of a backslash of how the legislature tried to address it and CAPERS has tried to address it. And it doesn't make any sense when you think about that. And then it compounds the problem when you consider that the $25,000 under CAPERS measurement is yearly, not on the school calendar. Mm. And so there's first year you can play with the numbers a little bit, and it technically is $50,000 in a school year before you have to reach that penalty phase, if you will. And I think we talked about it at Cabinet. I think ultimately we're going to pursue a new teacher and replacing those candidates because it is going to be very expensive. But there are situations where we have no choice and we have to come up with this answer. We felt like we owed it to you because I think Ramona has been here before about this topic, but the numbers kept changing because the law keeps changing with CAPER's requirements. So.
I think, Mr. Hires, in answer to your question, I think it will be interesting to see what develops over the next couple of years. Some of the surrounding states, their retirement systems have eased restrictions a bit due to the fact that it is very difficult to find teachers. So it'll be interesting to see if CAPERS follows suit with that. But right now, starting January 1st, this is what we have to deal with.
Right. Is it a legislature issue? I mean, is this a bill in the legislature?
No, this is not.
This actually passed, Mr. Hires, with the last legislature. And the one thing I'm going to give the legislature credit for is, I bashed the legislature when they don't fund this and some other times. Before this law went into effect, there were 13 different categories that people fit in under CAPERS. 13 different categories, and candidly, the people in CAPERS didn't keep it straight. So they have simplified. This does simplify a lot. I think it's going to be a basket, maybe a better situation. My concern is I got 4 bus drivers who are retired who are working for us. I'd like to tell you I go out and hire 4 more bus drivers. I'm not sure I can. That's going to be our intent. We're going to try, but this is kind of the backstop when you don't have other folks knocking on your door. You kind of do what you have to do to keep the situation.
Any other questions or information I can share that will make your decision easier?
There is one other thing. This is in lieu of the normal cases retirement. So when people do retire, the power that they're playing, for example, 12% will become 6%. What is it now if you're a CAPERS member? What is it?
It's right at that 6%, as far as I know.
It really, the first 25,000 kind of replaces what would normally come out of your check for CAPERS anyway. I mean, so that's kind of a trade-off for certain.
Do you suppose that there'll be some that don't want to pay their half of the penalty and so decide not to continue?
Yes, I do anticipate that.
I think we all do.
Yeah.
We can't pay it all. We felt like it was only fair that they had to be a part of it. So.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll make a motion for approval.
Okay.
Second.
We have a motion by Tammy and a second by Barbara. All in favor?
Reluctantly.
Yeah, 6-0.
I don't mind paying it.
Sorry.
No, I don't mind paying it. I just think that somehow we have to explain to them the problem. And in my little mind, why should CAPERS care? If they've paid into CAPERS, they've got their points, they've put their years in. I don't understand why they care, and I'm asking you unanswerable questions.
Right.
I honestly believe it's penalizing superintendents. They got so upset with superintendents that were retiring and double dipping that was how they went out to stop it, and they couldn't just pick one category. And so that's personal belief. I don't know that I can back that up, but you look back at the history, and that was what they were really concerned about, and that's where it started.
No, I just appreciate all the efforts you guys put into recruiting.
Yeah.
And this is something that doesn't help the cause.
Right. Right.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, next up, we've got business services. Mr. Hammond. Review of bond projects. I guess that's Chris first.
We have Chris Myers with us, and Tom's here, Tom Montgomery, architect, for another matter later. So we actually have 2 experts tonight, so I can kind of stand aside and turn it over to them. But I thought you would want to hear kind of an update on bonds. But if you've got any questions, we have plenty of expertise here this evening. So Chris, I'll let you kind of start off. And
ready. Well, the good news is we're all dried in across the district, so it can rain. Over at Miller, we turned over the new office area, which was the old gymnasium. We started on the south parking lot.
Hey, Chris.
And, yes,
Can you move your mic?
yeah, it says here, don't move it. No, we started on the south parking lot, and then we turned over to the playground. That was a big hit. So, out of the high school or academic wing, we're into finishes and outside wall panels. And then PE edition, we're also working on the window wall on the north side of the PE area and all the finishes inside the locker rooms and inside the big area. CT area, we're working on the HVAC, the exhaust systems, and finishing up some of the interior finishes. Dodge City Middle School, working on the outside brickwork, drywall, HVAC, and electrical in the academic wing. In the gymnasium, they're doing ductwork, paint, and then in the north end of the building, the storm protected area, we put footings in today, and the precast should be showing up by the end of the month. Northwest, we're into the office area and the gymnasium, we're into finishes. We're installing the wood gym floor. They should be finished up hopefully in a couple weeks. Over at Central, the brickwork, interior finishes, and we're painting the gym. And the new classroom wing, we're doing drywall and framing. Over at Sewell, we're doing the interior finishes, tile, paint, and finishing up the outside wall panels and windows. And I do commend all of the administrators of the schools because we've turned their life upside down, and they have worked with us 100%, and I just applaud it for that. So,
Thank you.
it made our lives easy.
I don't know if this is a question for Chris or for Bill, but I don't remember when it was, but recently we approved additional playground equipment for, was it Northwest? It was
Sewell?
Sewell?
Sewell's the last one we put in.
Okay. Are we doing that for the other elementary schools that have?
We basically have a proposal that they're working on at Tom's. Hutton has a person who sold playground equipment for a number of years, and he's reviewed it. And we're trying to get together a plan because we realize that there's a need for a number of schools across the district to upgrade. Some of the playground equipment moving didn't do so well. We're going to have to replace it, and plus we're trying to get everything up to at least an equal equilibrium across the district. So that's what our intention is. I don't think I've seen the final report on that, Tom. Have you seen that come back? I don't believe we have. That's something we'll go back and look at again. That's our intention.
Okay. And I think at Miller was some of that, the equipment that didn't get moved very well? Or?
When we started moving it, it was not moving. It was going to be dangerous if we tried to reinstall it. So now that we've got our playground set, then we'll go back and see where we can install new playground equipment. And this will be part of that overview, is try to look at all the playgrounds at once, so we're not just piecing it here and there.
We're also trying to look at what we should do for covering, because we have some playgrounds that have asphalt, we have some playgrounds that have wood chips, we have some playgrounds that have sand, we also have some playground areas that basically are natural turf. And we also have some kind of artificial turf in some areas too. So we're trying to look at that and also look at that for each playground, what is the best and what's the most suitable for that. So we're not trying to do that. The board did previously approve in capital outlay some money for playground equipment. It may not be enough to get us where we need to be, but it's a good start. So we may come back and ask you for a little more to make sure we get that done and done correctly.
Any more questions?
Looks great.
Thanks, Chris.
The next item on the agenda is the board tour. I was approached by the board, and we have set up a board tour for January 25th, beginning at 5 o'clock at Dodge City High School. You also at that point indicated you'd like to invite the public, so if you basically approve that date, we will put that out. I've been working with the Public Relations Office in Uganda, and I think you're going to put that out on social media and on our website and so forth. The only thing we're asking, if any of the public want to go, would like at least a couple of days' notice. So in case there's a huge rush, if we need a second or third bus, we can sure do that, but we just need a little time to make sure we can make those accommodations for everybody. So we hope everybody can go. Any questions on that issue?
Do you need, that's listed as an action item.
That is listed as approval item if you'd like to
approve that date.
I'll move.
Okay.
Second.
Motion by Ryan and a second by Tracy. All in favor? 6-0. And the next up, the approval of the change order at the high school.
We are getting kind of down to the end of the change orders, at least we hope we are. I thank the board for staying with us in this, but we're about 70% done of the project, the last report I had, so we've really made some good progress. But there are some items that we are bringing to you. Some of these we could do internally within the projects, but we're trying to be as transparent both for the board and our owners who are taxpayers of this project. So that's why we're bringing what are some small projects here to give you that information. So anyway, we would request that you would approve this change order to the contract at Dodge City High School for $47,313. We're still pretty well right there within the budget, so that's good news, and we just give you that information. Are there any questions?
I'll make a motion, we approve the change order at the high school.
A second.
Motion by Jeff and a second by Tammy. All in favor? 6-0. And then the middle school change order.
Dodge City Middle School change order on that. Most of it's from owner's reserve. There is a little bit. We are picking up the cost of any electrical or actually the utilities to the building out of the capital outlet instead of the project fund, which we're continuing that. Basically, I just kind of wanted to point out this is going to allow us basically to eliminate all telephone poles on that campus, both at the middle school, and Northwest Elementary. Everything will be underground utilities, which we think is A, safer, and B, just looks a whole lot better, and really is kind of where we wanted to be. So we'd appreciate an approval on that if we could.
Make a motion to approve.
A second.
Motion by Tracy and a second by Tammy. All in favor? 6-0.
The next item is really, we do it by change order, but basically it's just a movement from Tom's budget for equipment into the construction budget, which is with Hutton Construction. And it's basically for the sound system at Northwest Elementary. Each of the new gyms, we're putting a sound system in and adequate technology so we can get full use out of those facilities. So that's what that
I'm
is.
sorry, you said that each school that has the new gym is getting it?
Yeah, we're going to have a sound system in each one of them, just as a district standard.
Okay.
Make a motion to approve.
Second.
We've got a motion by Tracy and a second by Barbara. All in favor? 6-0.
I did bring Tom Montgomery to walk through. The middle school project has been kind of interesting with the middle school additional fields, and I thought it would be helpful to have Mr. Montgomery kind of walk through how we've come about on these changes and make sure the board has all the information concerning that. So.
Thanks, Tom.
Wait for Brian if he shows up.
Okay, good evening. What I passed out is the same kind of slides I'm going to show up here. And what I'm going to talk to you tonight about, not buildings, not beautiful buildings, not beautiful interiors, I'm going to talk about dirt. And dirt is part of a project, and it comes with a cost. So I'm going to just go to the first slide. And this is the large area, I don't know if we call it big, it's got a big swale that's to the east of Dodge City Middle School. And if you look at the site, the salmon colors are what the building additions. They're underway, both in Northwest, Sewell, and also at the middle school. And then also in yellow, you see all the parking improvements that were made. As we started working on Sewell, it's a 2-level project, we noticed that when they started excavating, we had quite a bit of dirt that was showing up. We knew we were going to have some, but we didn't know we'd have as much as we did. During that course, our construction manager indicated to us that the other sites we're having a little more dirt than we anticipated. Now, in the budget was just to haul it off, Just take it and just haul it to a dump somewhere. But as we started looking at it, we thought, well, is there a way to leverage that cost into something that's more positive, more of an amenity? And so we started to bring the dirt here to this site, because we've been studying for a number of years the potential, look at this site, of play fields for the middle school, if that was something that the district would want to do. This drainage way takes all the drainage from the north, north of Sewell Avenue, takes it onto that area, and it takes it on to the south. I know, and our engineers are talking with as we looked through that site, and we had to study it anyway, regardless of what we did with it. Had to make sure we don't change that site, change the character of the site so it drains off any faster than what it does right now. Because as we go to the south of the site, as we understand from the city, there's been some flooding issues only because of the nature of the flow through that site, nothing else. And so we thought, well, maybe there's an opportunity to improve on that since we have some dirt to work with. But anyway, when we first got on this project, and I think the first time it was brought to your attention, we thought, well, maybe we have just barely enough, to do one field, and see if that's something that would be advantage, and present that to the board, and see if that'd be, something we want to go forward with. And so we looked at that, and engineers did the calculations, and we still had some excess fill left over. And it was quite a number of fields. So as we looked further at this, because hauling off dirt is about $10 a yard, and you've seen those great big dump trucks. That's about 8 yards. So here we're talking about 30, 40, maybe 50,000 yards of dirt to do something with. So we started doing the math there. That's quite a bit of money just to haul off and just discard. So I thought, well, maybe there's something we could do to make this an amenity also. So we had our engineers looked at the next phase. Does it make sense to do, a second field? So we had a second field looked at. And then it looked like we'd have, with this combination, and also about the same time, looked at in the green area, the small green area here, since we were embarking in this field with this addition on the middle school, for Sewell, maybe we get expand their play area also and get a little kind of a junior soccer field worked in. So this is kind of how we looked at this, with this field being maybe 6 feet higher in elevation than this, and look at how that would also work. That side begins to really balance. We don't have to haul it off. So the thought was, well, if we have this and we're able to leverage the cost into some, as part of additional costs for amenities on the site, what would that make sense? Our engineers came back and said if we did a third field here, the way this grade is, from west to east, or from east to west rather, it drops off. So with the equipment out here, this side here would pretty much balance in itself. It'd just be a matter of having equipment out there to do it. So what we looked at here was here we are with a three-field concept. And the ideal of this thing, the dirt that we accumulated from the high school, from the middle school, we had from Central and Miller onto this site, it looks like we're making some positive use of it. To date, we've done nothing out there. To date, just the first slide I showed you, if you've been out there, it's just a pile of dirt. There's a lot of piles of dirt out there that we haven't really done anything with. All we know now that on paper and through engineering, we could make this work. What this helped us do is really look and analyze the site. We have this field at the elevation that comes right off about 2-3 feet, right off, or about 3 feet below the lower level of Sewell. This is about 6 feet lower than this field, and this field here is about 3 feet higher than this one. That allows us to come in through and really create some detention areas in and around these fields, so when water comes in and rain comes in, it can actually have a positive effect. So as our engineers started looking further, we thought, well, here becomes established some detention areas, and with this size of detention actually lessens the rate of fall from the site to the south. We have the same volume of water, but it goes off the site slower than it does currently, which means those downstream, it helps them. It would help them. If you look at this, it does encroach a little bit on the city property here, both at the fire station as well as at the swimming pool. A little bit of encroachment here, a detention. And and then looking at the, further shows the detention, and also, I'm going to come back just a second, I'll look at some storm drainage that could occur underneath the fields. So we have there's several things to work out, several things, to think about as we go through this project. So just backing up a little bit, we want to, to look at, if we look at primarily this as kind of our, just for the purpose of tonight, for the, for see if we can go forward with it. If we look at this as like our base bid or our base effort to go for within this context, what this gives us is 2 fields, the soccer field. Also, as part of this project, the request was add a little more of the parking area, since we had this grade was dropping off. Part of this would create this grade and create more parking here with a little more more concrete, and add about another, I think, 20 stalls. Make this, we'll see what price this would come out, because this pretty much balances site. As I understand from the contract, we won't have to haul anything off. If we looked at that one, and we looked at some of the numbers, for our base price is about just under 1.2 million. We get the 2 fields, they'd be turf fields, it'd be just grass fields, and we have a soccer field at Sewell, kind of a junior soccer field size, and parking. And so that gives us a pretty good base price to go from. If we wanted to come back, that would get us this one. If we want to add the southeast field right here, let's jump ahead a little bit. That would be another $252,000, and that's primarily with equipment being there, working the site, and the time it takes to grade that. It'd be actually working with the dirt that's already there. Then we put together 2 other alternates. Those being, if we want to come back and put a synthetic turf over this north field, it would require us, since this becomes an impervious surface by engineering definition, even though the water moisture can go through it, it's not as natural grade. We would look at some underground storm detention system of piping that it would come from the draw through here into this area to help slow this water down as it goes up to the south, and would take the drainage in around the periphery. If we were to do that, that would be another $500,000 if we go to synthetic turf to the north field. The soccer field will still stay the natural grass. Let me back up too. When I say the natural grass, it'll be a fescue, it'll be a sod, it'll be irrigated. That's in our just under 1.2 million. This, we're looking at a synthetic surface as an alternative to that turf. And then the other thought was the south field, just for this discussion with the board, if we want to have this be a synthetic turf, then we have both fields. Synthetic turf would add, again, after the storm drainage underneath, would add just another about $660,000. We felt this plan kind of gives the breadth or the extent, we think, at this time of what the board would want to consider. If down the road, and this is all planned, if down the road this field in the south here would ever want to have a track, I know that's been discussed, of another track within the facility, it is set up that with the grading, with a little bit of work around the exterior here, and some additional storm detention, you could have a track system around this, as well as with that, and you can actually have it set it up for bleachers. So we have a system there that if you want to have this be a competitive track, 10 years from now, you could. If you could. If that was something to benefit to the district. So what we tried to do is put up together a plan and a concept and a series of components, a base bid, we'll call it, and some additives that at least gives you some good options of what could occur on this site. If we were to have the base price plus the $252,000, it'd give you about just under 1.5 million. You could have all 3 fields in natural turf, if that was the board's desired, all irrigated, and et cetera. If you want to have two of those fields, one or two of those fields with synthetic turf, you have that option too. Some of the benefits of the synthetic turf obviously is the long-term maintenance, but it comes with the help, with the first cost. It's more expensive obviously than natural turf. So with it, I know it's been a while since this has been talked about. Any questions on it? One of the things that we were really looking at is a couple things. One is how do we leverage, what do we do with $300,000-$400,000 of dirt we're going to have to haul off somewhere? I mean, we use it for something positive, or do we just want to just take it 20 miles somewhere out of town, or if it's at midnight, take it 5 miles out of town and just get rid of it. And then also, is there a way, since we've heard this from the city, of all the issues they've had with the South on flooding, even though it doesn't rain that much in Dodge, when it does, it can rain pretty good. Is there a way to alleviate some of that runoff, slow it down in this effort? So it's kind of a win-win for both district, city, and everybody. So that's kind of why the iterations and one reason we were looking at some of the, one of the options we had with this coming on to the city property, this amount of detention really makes a big difference. As I understand things, it makes a big difference in the rate of runoff. It really helps it, really reduces it. If the city says, and we would have to go to the city and ask permission, because we've got kind of a preliminary okay from engineering, but we have to go through the city, for final permission. If they say, no, we don't want you on this property, then we'll just have to re-engineer, reshape this in here to make it work. It still could work. This just works a little bit better in the grades. So with that, I'm going to pause and see if there's any questions that you might have.
I want to be a good neighbor as much as anybody, but this, the drainage system doesn't really benefit us as a district. Is the city going to help us with those drainage systems?
We haven't gone that far yet. I don't know. I can't really speak for the city.
And I may not be remembering correctly, but I thought that we were talking about one field.
That's where we started. You're right. We started with the one field. That's why I kind of had the graphs this way. This is kind of where we started.
Why do you have the graphs, when you have the one field, why do you show it in front of Sewell?
Well, if you had it here with this grade, the way it's working, this is the most advantageous, cost-effective way to put one field in. If you put the field down here, then we're going to have a little bit of issues of transferring from this elevation down to here. It's going to be a little more difficult. Not impossible, a little more difficult. We'll have to have some type of detention ponds like we have right now. I think we used to have right now a little detention pond up here. This being close to parking, close to the building, with the high point of the grade here, it looks like it was the natural one of the most cost-effective to put in. It still doesn't, what it doesn't do, it still doesn't get rid of a lot of the field that's out there. We still have to have a lot of haul-off if we just do the one field. And that's really what brought us to the two fields. If we had two fields, if with the second field, we were able to balance the site, the cut and fill with the dirt that's there much better. That's really, if we didn't do that, if we had to bring in dirt, we wouldn't even talk about a second field. The only reason we brought that up is we can balance the site. For your review and consideration, is because it helps us balance the site.
Is there a grade between the Dodge City Middle School parking lot and that second field? Or, it looks like it, to me, just looking at it, it's almost as close as the other parking lot.
Well, the grade, if you're talking about the elevation difference?
Yes.
It's about 16 feet difference from here to there. This is higher than that field because we're going down quite a ways. This drops quite a ways from one point down to here. What that allows us to do is that in the future, if we want to put stadium seats, you can actually enter from the top, have a top-loaded, to a certain degree, seating here if you want it on this side. This field in here, there's no way really to get it, where its elevation right now, about 16, 17 feet below this level. It really lines up much better with Morgan, and it's a little higher than Morgan, and because we have a drainage swale or a drainage or a detention area right in through here, I don't know if we can go much higher because the grades on the site get so steep. I don't think we can bring it higher. I think it's going to be where it is, if we're going to have a second field. And that we show the other, you got this detention in through here, and there, and it shows the other one, but I think it's the same. Yeah, and also we're able to get an access to this level. You know, we looked at bringing it up higher, and it just, the slopes, if you can see on the drawings you have there, you can see all the different lines we have across here. Every those recommend, they all represent like a foot of fall. And so this looks like it balanced and also get us from the difference in the heights between the fields, but it's either transition from students going from one field to the other. Otherwise, it's going to be quite a difference in grade. If we try to bring this up, we're going to have quite a difference in grade trying to get over here, you know, to up there. Even though this is higher, but it's just going to be really steep around in here. More so than what we've got shown now. That's why. And with this grade, it does allow us to balance.
This is just my personal opinion. I don't want to water that much field. That is a nightmare.
It's a lot.
That's, in this, we haven't had rain for 67 days. So, we have that a lot. I think I made a statement and said I'd never vote for another grass field.
I think you did. And you'll notice that we did include the synthetic turf on both of them. And
Right.
I think it probably makes sense to go that way. I just trying to give the board, I kind of heard the last time we weren't quite sure what you wanted to do. You were kind of leaning toward one. We kept looking at dirt, that's why we kind of brought this proposal back. I might mention, we were almost ready just to forget the southeast field. The reason we brought it to the board, if we do it as part of this project, it's never going to be any cheaper. And I was talking to Hutton, it's probably 50 to 100,000 more if we do it later. Again, I'm not necessarily recommending that. I'm just trying to give the board all the information so you can make good decisions this evening on that.
As far as the school district, why do we need two or three fields?
We are currently busing, and I'm looking for Mark. How many buses do we take for soccer to the St. Mary's project? Girls and boys for both Dodge City Middle School and Comanche. So that's the other thing that's happening is what Tom showed you on that first slide. There was some space for Dodge City Middle School around the facility. We now have a gym where we used to kind of have a little bit of a play field on the backside. We've kind of eliminated that. So.
Where does Dodge City Middle School practice football? Are they on blue and red field? Do they go
Both
over
them
there
and
to do that?
Comanche are on blue and the red field, yes. They kind of put a line down the middle and, yeah.
Might show you, this is how, if you look at overall, this is how the three fields, if you had the fields, if this made any sense, this is how this whole athletic could work. And still, if you had a third middle school come in, I mean, you're really set up. You at least have a chance to be set up for it.
Well, I'm not opposed to a field, or maybe two. I don't think we need three in that one area. That's just my thought.
Well, and you know, if we put a turf field over there, where we're talking about, we said in the very beginning, we went to two middle schools, that we wanted them as identical as possible.
Right.
So what we look at now is we look at Dodge City Middle School practicing on a turf field, and Comanche practicing on a grass field.
Unless you put two turf fields, which you could do, Jeff. We could do that, then you've got two fields. The other advantage of the turf, I'm trying to get everything out here, pros and cons. When we did Comanche, we kept people off the grass for a year, which was a battle to keep them off, but that was the recommendation of everybody, you know, that we heard. You got to let the grass get down, get roots. Even if you do sod, you need a year off. So if we put natural turf fields, we need a year before we can even get on them, to be very candid. If you put artificial turf, the day that they leave, you can get kids on those fields and get going with it.
So that's the other
Are
possibility.
you gonna bus the kids from Comanche over there?
Yeah, that was my question. So soccer, football, Comanche, that would now.
That's a long walk. I mean, it really is. It takes
Well, especially at the
20
end of
minutes of your
practice.
practice time,
Yeah.
going
At
back
the
and
end of
forth.
practice, they're going to be.
Well, where football is currently practicing, it's another half block.
I mean, it's not a huge
It's a block.
walk, but Jeff does bring up a valid.
Well, I mean, it takes 40 minutes of practice time. It'll take them 15 to 20 minutes to walk over there from Comanche, and 15 to 20 minutes to walk back. That's 40 minutes of practice time. You wouldn't take them out of the classroom that long.
It's called
So,
conditioning. Make it run over.
Conditioning.
This is not an easy one. We have, I'm so tired of talking about dirt. I really don't ever want to talk about dirt again, but we've had discussion after discussion. Is that fair, Tom, that we've?
Yeah, right now, like I said, where we are right now is right here in the first slide. Oops, the first slide. And we just have just a nice big pile of dirt right in here, several piles of dirt. We analyzed it, studied it, try to make some good use out of it, try to be good stewards of the money, try to keep it in a positive way on the site. We're just at a point now, we just kind of bring it to your attention, for your consideration, and give us some guidance what you'd like us to do. At this point, we can do either one. We can haul all the dirt off. We can do that.
I don't want to spend $500,000 hauling dirt either.
Yeah, me neither. I just don't want 3 fields, though. I guess that's my stance. Do the 2 fields with the synthetic.
We can do that.
What kind of wrath are we going to get for doing away with the
Sled hill, yeah.
A lot.
We're going to blame the architect because he lives in Wichita.
So, I mean, it sounds like definitely there's an athletic need. And I do concur with Jeff, spending $500,000 just to move the dirt out of there. I mean, this is a much better plan to utilize that. But
What would be the difference if we moved if we did a synthetic field over, like that one of the last slides over into the red-blue field lot? Did one field.
Yeah, just right there
in the big
between both of
ditch,
them.
And then the other one that Comanche could use over in the red-blue field, you had a slide with that in there. And that would save considerable money on the retention ponds and all that.
So what you're saying, maybe do one of these fields?
One there and then one over
this
here.
one right here?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't see that slide.
I mean, I'm guessing it would be significant less because of the dirt work not required.
If we have one field, according to our engineers, we're going to have 20, 30,000 yards of it all off. I think if we at least get 2 fields,
Keep
the dirt on the site.
There is another possibility, and that is we could do one artificial field here, one natural turf. That takes care of all the dirt. We could come back with another proposal to do an artificial turf on red and blue field. That's a possibility. We could sure do that.
This may sound like an ignorant question, but why can't we just do the one field and then just spread the dirt out on the other? I mean, why do we have to put a field on top of that dirt?
Well, some of the dirt we can spread out over the site. It's a big site. What we have to be careful about is that when we put it on there, we don't change the character, the slope of the ground. Otherwise, that water's going to run off faster. And so there's a little bit of variance we can do. We can maybe, as I understand from engineers, we can maybe spread about 3,000 or 4,000 yards of it out without impacting the current character of the existing grounds. So,
Maybe there's a different question. Are you saying maybe the south field, because the north one's probably the first one we need to do? If we did the south field, we could just level it there, not put in the irrigation system, and basically make no improvements. It'd just be a flat area. We could do that. That'd be a possibility.
But the south field or the north one?
Probably the south field. The north one, I think, is the first one. I mean, the discussions that I've been through, and there's been so many of them, Jeff, it's kind of hard, but I think the north one, we need to probably do the first thing, and then if you want to do the south field, because that also allows you, if you end up with water coming up over the south field, it gives us more variance. If you put in a synthetic turf, you really don't want water on top of that synthetic turf. So if you just did just basically laid a flat space at the south, we could do that. We wouldn't necessarily have to irrigate it or whatever, it'd just be a flat area. We could do that.
You know, Jay Gifford had an idea. I don't usually give Jay credit for much, but, and of doing one oversized field. I mean, and I don't know what oversized means. One oversized area, in that area, instead of two separate fields. He was just thinking about, you know, with middle school kids, you can, with PE and those things, it would give you, you know, more field.
And we talked about that on a red and blue field, because we've talked about, you know, the dilemma we get into red and blue is we've had a conversation, is that's where we play junior, what am I trying to say? JV baseball. And that was because that was one of the limitation factors. If we did certain things, what was the effect on baseball? We even looked at possibly moving JV baseball to the high school, because there is a place we could put it there, but then that got to be an expensive, I mean, it's like, this thing is like everything you move, it's like a bowl of spaghetti. You pull one thing and you pull out everything else. So, but there are other options.
So Jeff, are you referring to like an oversized field? You talking about like with the track and doing the whole shebang kind of a thing?
No, not necessarily. A track's gonna be $1 million.
Yes.
I mean, that's.
Minimum.
And,
You want to have one oversized field, you'd probably look at kind of right in here.
right.
In the middle, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd be more in favor of something like that, maybe, at least looking at it.
I mean,
At least
it's
looking
up to
at
the
it.
board, but I would really like to look at something like that. And does it have utility? I don't know. And, but let
The
the,
thing is, if we do that, then it limits, I mean, in the future, if we wanted to put
right,
another field in there, it might limit that.
Over on the
with the southeast one.
southeast.
Oh, yeah, that's right. We still have
Eventually.
that room right there.
I'd be interested to look at
Just looking
that
at it.
option, and then what it would cost to do the one at the red and blue field.
Yeah.
One there and then one at the,
Okay.
I don't know, three's a little
We do
expensive.
You know, but I think I'd like some explanation from the athletic directors and the coaches
Sure.
about the utility
Right.
of that, because I'm just, that was just a suggestion that was made.
Yep.
So, it's a tough decision.
And then also the, excuse me, the conversation that we need to have with the city about if they have any specific interest that they want to
We do have
monetize.
a draft letter that Schwab Eaton has put together. Would it be acceptable with the board if we went ahead and at least approached the city to see if there's interest? Because if there's not interest there, then that's going to kind of change the discussion too. From the initial discussion between the engineers and the engineers, they've talked, it sounds pretty favorable. But again, we haven't formally approached the city. Would it be acceptable if we did that? So when we come back, we could at least have that information for you also. Okay.
Yeah.
So do we need a motion on this, or?
Do you want to just do a motion that, you know, to bring back more information at the January board meeting? We can do that.
Okay, I'll make a motion to look at the options discussed.
Second.
Motion by Ryan and a second by Tammy. All in favor? 6-0.
Okay. Thank you all. I feel better because I felt like we just were having a hard time coming up with an answer, and I think you can begin to see why. So I do appreciate the discussion and the ideas this evening.
Thanks, Bill.
Thanks
Thank
for
you,
your
Bill.
time.
Thank you, Bill. Thanks, Tom.
Thank you.
All right, Dr. Dirksen.
All right. Appreciate all the professional addresses when people come to the microphone, and I thought it would be appropriate when the superintendent speaks to welcome the gallery. I appreciate the gallery being here and the effort that they put in. They've had a long day, they have a long week, and they're here taking part in the board action. So I appreciate the administrators and directors that are here and wanted to give a shout out to them. So, you know, they're giving up some programs and some opportunities, and I also want to thank the board for giving Bill more field talk to have. I was so hoping we'd wrap that up this month. But
You're welcome.
The beat goes on. Okay. I want to connect some things together because, as you know, we have an audit that's taking place where we're looking at our curriculum and instruction. It's going on at the same time that KISA is coming in from the state, and it's revamping education across the whole state of Kansas. But before that all started, we also have a project going on at the high school with the pathways, and how this all connects together is kind of neat, in my opinion. So I've stole some slides from the State Department, and I want you to make sure that you're aware of this. I think it's been presented to you before, so we won't have to stay long, but I did want to go through a few. And they have a project going on that they call their Mercury Project, and it's based off of the history for space. And we'll go to the next slide, Karen. There were 7 schools. There were many that applied, and there were 7 that were selected. And it gives you a picture across the state. Liberal would be our closest neighbor. That was one of the 7. However, there were others that applied, and they were the Gemini Project. And in the Gemini Project, the really only major difference is the state is supporting the Mercury Project. The Gemini, you just agreed to come along. Well, jokingly, I've referred to our projects as the Mars Project because we're not recognized by the state. And then I found out that they're actually talking to other schools about the Moon Project, but we're a little beyond that, so I'm going to stick with Mars for Dodge City. So I thought that was unique. And then there are certain points that need to be clarified and made sure that everyone understands that in all these projects, it's for kind of the relationship of what we're trying to do as a state in changing education. And you see the points that are bulleted there. And then we get to the next slide, which is the one that I really want to focus on a little bit. Start in the middle of the union that is there with the 2 circles, and you see the system. Social emotional learning is the top line, and that has been gravely important in this school district, and we're focusing on it this year. You were focusing on it last year. We're looking at more ways that we can improve social emotional learning. Schools are organized around the students' choice in learning activities. That goes to the pathways, and we see that in other things. Long-term projects, part of daily learning. Having meaning in what they're learning is basically what they're saying. Extracurricular activities, physical activities and learning. You learn by moving, you learn by doing, those sort of things. And then balance of learning activities, and we certainly understand the balance with the needs of our students. And then on the elementary side, I know it's hard to read, but pay close attention to this. Early childhood, birth to age 8, and kindergarten readiness, that's a key. We're adding preschool buildings with the Head Start addition. We just talked about hiring more teachers for Head Start. That's a real key. We also have a need that we're only able to put into the Head Start program those that qualify. We have a few peers, but we really could fill up a lot more rooms. And so that early childhood is something that we really need to look at. But the next one is paramount. Art and music are important to the development of each child. And I believe that in all my career. I believe that in all my heart. And I think one thing that really shocked me when I came here was that we don't have art in elementary. We don't provide that. And then if you notice in your slides, on the very last attachment that I included for you, I gave you the note page of what the state, it's not on the board, it's only in your notebook. But on page 89, the same exact slide that I showed you, but I'm showing you the note pages from how the state presents their information. And what it says, I'm going to read to you, and it's a quote: "The graphic shows the non-negotiables for the redesign of schools. This means that whatever model or method schools choose as their redesign, these components have to be addressed." And so in order to have been one of the Gemini or the other projects, you had to agree to do these things. And so if we would have applied for that, we may not have qualified based on the fact that we don't have some of those components. And I've reflected on this heavily, and here's one thing that is coming out as we look at this audit. Language is an issue that Dodge City is well aware of. With art, there are no boundaries in language. And a child that may not be successful in any subject matter may find success in art and may be able to find an identity, if you will, through that art. And I really think that's an area that we need to think about. So I wanted to share that with you. I want to expound a little bit about the fact that I think Dr. Seguin's visit has gone over very well. I thought I sent out to the council today a update that she sent on her schedule. I'll forward that to the board so that you can see what's going on. And she took it very serious. She has the qualifications that I think have impressed others, and she definitely is able to address our situation. She's seen it before, and I'm really staying out of her measurements. I want her to come up with her own plan. I'm not trying to force any persuasion in that area. I want her to really be whatever I'm trying to say, transparent. I'm saying it, whatever it is. I'll keep moving. Okay, but anyway, I think that's going very successfully, and we have set a target date of a presentation in March for the board. So she's going to hopefully have all these interviews. And one of the things that she talked about in the address that I'll forward to you has to do with focus groups, meeting with teachers as well. She's not just meeting with administrators. She's not just visiting the schools. She's going to talk to as many as she can talk to and put together some facts and information. I don't expect any of it to be a real shocker. I think it's something, I would be surprised if it's not stuff we don't already know. We're professionals. We've addressed this before. But I think it will help give us the impetus that we need to move forward as we put together our mission and our direction and our focus, if you will, on reading and math. So I'm excited about that and wanted to share this, and I tie that in. You guys see the passion I have for the arts and for all that, and maybe see that there's some worthiness in there. The only problem is it's not a building. Well, look over here at the budget man, and it's going to cost money. It's an ongoing expense. It doesn't just happen. The benefit would be, one of the concerns we always hear from elementary teachers is planning time. It would expand some of the planning time for elementary teachers by freeing that up for an art teacher to come in their class. I'm not talking crafts, I'm talking true art, letting them express themselves and learn that. So anyway.
So are you going to?
Go ahead.
Are you going to bring us a plan? I'm anxious to see a plan for
it's coming together, bud. It's coming together. We're working hard. And yes, we are going to come. But it's all going to tie in, because I believe this KISA that is going on with the state, they're wanting to redesign in education. The pathway started before KISA started.
Right.
And I believe this audit is all fitting together. And so, yes, I am coming to the board. But I'm trying to bring it along, and I want it to be methodical because I want everybody to understand we didn't just throw this together. Mm-hmm. And I also think that it's hugely important that we don't have to change 6 more times. I think that's part of how we got here is, oh, this looks good, let's do this. Oh, this looks good, let's do this. And so I want to have some real clear direction on what way we're going and how we're moving with that. And I believe it's going to happen. That's best report I can give you on this. I'm happy with how it's moving. And I would open it up to the gallery and ask if any administrator had anything different to say, or no? Just going to let me mumble up here and continue on?
How long has it been since we had art? Does anybody remember?
Now that, I did ask about it was a budget cut maneuver, and I'm not faulting it from anyone, but.
At least been
I came back in 2004, and I don't think it was the elementary level then, so.
Yeah.
My knowledge, Dodge has never had art at the elementary level.
To your knowledge. And that would be a deep knowledge.
Back in 98 would be the last time, back in 98, 99.
Oh, yeah, when they were magnet schools. Because they did music and art.
Oh, right.
Mhm. That's when magnets, yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I just thought that was neat, that that was a part of the redesign requirements, and we're missing that component. And I just wanted to point that out. I wasn't really throwing that out just yet, but we have talked about it at the cabinet meeting before I put this piece together. That something that came to my attention that bothered me, to say the least. So. All right.
Very good.
Great.
I believe that's what I had to report on that. So.
Sounds good. Look forward to hearing more.
All right. And then the next item that I had has to do with our outgoing board members, and one's not here to hear all this recognition, but I am proud of them both. And unfortunately, with this new schedule, we come to the point in the middle of the year where we will be changing our guard. And I thought it was only appropriate that we give proper recognition to our outgoing board members for their time and service, and honor them. They serve our community, they serve our citizens, they represent taxpayers, but they're here for the students and they care about them. And I believe that Barbara was elected in 2013, served her full term. Thanks to the change in the legislature, got an additional 6 months to go along with that term, and has been with us the whole time. And I greatly appreciate the committee work that she did and the involvement that she had. And we have a certificate for each board member and a small token of appreciation that you're definitely deserving of, and wanted to recognize you tonight. So I thank you for that. Do we have your certificate? Oh, mine. Come up here for a photo op, Barbara.
Really? She's got a pretty red
Come with
suit
me.
on. She needs a picture.
Hope it's Adam.
To tell Brian you missed out.
No.
I already
So we
did.
do it here?
Like
You want to stand here or up here? No, we're fine. Great.
We're gonna photobomb this one.
Photo pop.
For you, and thank you very much.
Just made me grumpy.
Which is
First thing, just
amazing. Yeah, we fight the same thing in common. I know, but what do you do? I agree with you.
Well,
Yeah, we got a couple retired, 4 people working.
Is that all you've got, Dr. Dirksen?
I'm sorry?
Is that all you have?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am. That's all I have.
All right, we've got the Board of Education member district responsibilities. Barbara, do you have Park and Rec?
I do. I noticed that we met last on November 8th, and we meet next, and this will be my last meeting, will be tomorrow, December 12th. But at the one in November, the staff reported that there was a new play set installed at Gene Russell Park. Maybe you've seen it. It isn't quite finished. The safety surfacing for children has not been installed yet, so you need to wait a while before you can use it. The advisory board recommended that there would be no change in the fees that are going to be charged this next summer at the water park. Although I guess there was some recommendation by Standguard that maybe they would adjust the fees upward, was my impression. But that did not take place, so there will be no change in the cost. And lastly, turf was installed at Legends Ballpark, or is being installed. I don't know if they've completed yet. Does anyone know? But it was taking place at the end of the last month. So it will be done soon. Thank you.
Tracy, do you have Bright Beginnings Head Start report?
I do. They've been doing lots of parents as teachers programs, socializing with the kids ages birth to 3. Tomorrow night they have seasonal songs with the parents in a family music extravaganza. They are working on next year's grant application and the results from the self-assessment and community assessment. And recently they had Over 200 dads and other important role models participate in the Kids Bring Your Dad to Work Day, which is a huge turnout.
Yeah.
Not to be worried, moms will have their role.
Very good. Thanks, Tracy. Jeff, special ed.
Barbara attended the last meeting for me, but you can share anything. I've been in contact with Brian and had some things. The next meeting is scheduled for the 19th. It'll be a very, very important meeting in the fact that at that time we're supposed to receive the final audit from the auditors. We got a text today that they may not be ready and to report because of some information that they have not yet received. And so we're very anxious to hear the final audit reports, and it looks like it may be delayed until after the first of the year. I'm not sure about that, but after we receive those, there'll be some tough decisions that'll need to be made. And it's a very interesting time. I'm very pleased with John Maple. We are as a board, not me, but we are as a board very pleased with John Maple and the job he's done as interim director. And we feel like the service to the children hadn't been affected by the issues in the administration. So probably in January, we should have, depending on the timing of the meeting, we should have a report on what the audit brought to us and probably the direction we're going.
Okay. I know you'll keep us updated. Legislative, Ryan? Nothing. And then capital outlay, we haven't really started that yet, have we, Bill? Or?
We have actually sent out the request. We're trying to limit to safety issues, kind of important things, because we're still pretty well trying to wrap up the overall whole project. We're probably going to have a couple of paving items out, proposed this next year. We think there's an area in front of the school that we need to redesign for safety issues. There's one area in front of the high school that tends to be a traffic issue, one issue we're trying to look at. Beyond those, we're just in our normal process. So I think there was also concern about some flooring at the high school too, as mentioned earlier. So we're in the process.
Okay. Yvonne, is there anything on the calendar committee that?
We're narrowing it down to 3, and then we'll send it out to vote later this week or first part of next week.
Okay, thank you. As far as I know, Dr. Dirksen, there's nothing new on the Kansas Heritage Work Group.
None that I'm aware of.
Okay, so we'll just go with that. We've got Tammy scheduled to review the bills before January's meeting. Announcements, we will not have a second Board of Education meeting in December due to the holiday. Thursday, December 21st is the end of quarter teacher workday. There will be no classes that day. Friday, December 22nd through Friday the 5th is winter break. Classes resume on Monday, January 8th of 2018. Monday, January 15th, the third Monday of the month, is a Board of Education meeting, 6 o'clock here in the Austin Boardroom. And then Monday, the 29th, we'll be at Will Rhodes Garden for our luncheon meeting. A little over a week ago, Tammy and I attended the KASB convention in Wichita. Do you want to start? You can say what you picked up or information to share.
Yeah, I was excited because I went to Career Pathways and as a breakout session. And so Baser Linwood was speaking, and then got to hear a little bit from Blue Valley Northwest, and they've all kind of talked to Emporia. So it's kind of neat to see the stages they're all in. And Baser Linwood said that they had taken some high school students to the middle school and their 3 areas is business, health, and engineering that they chose. And took students from each of those areas to talk to the middle schoolers to kind of get them revved up about it and stuff. And so the first young lady got up to speak about the health side of it. And the first words out of her mouth were, "Well, I know I don't want to be a nurse now." And so she said that the superintendent looked at her kind of like, not really why we brought you here, it was, but the neat thing is that she would have been a fourth generation nurse in her family, so that's what she thought she always wanted to be. But after being a part of that program for a little over a year, I guess, as she said, she just knows that she wants to go in education. And so it was really kind of cool to see that it also helps narrow down the other way. But it was just neat to hear all about their excitement and the different things. I think, which I'm sure you guys have already surveyed parents and started in on that. I'm sure you guys are way ahead of the game on that. And the other thing is one of the things they said and I had talked to Glenn, and he said we're kind of already in that area, but they have a school nurse that had a bachelor's that could be a part, and more education. So they ended up hiring her, and so she has the CNA program that she teaches and stuff through that. And so I just excited me about so many possibilities. And so anyway, I think it's just a great move with our kids. I could tell you a lot more because I took a lot of notes, but I won't. I'll go on to the next one. And then the next session I went to was kindergarten for HR. So they gave me some good bullet points. But one of the things is it said, I think there's an app called Remind. Have you guys heard of that? Anyway, so they talked about that with texting and safe messages and things like that. So I thought that was kind of cool to learn more about that, and several other things. And then the last one that I went to, since I'm with the Crisis Center, is Trauma-Informed Schools, which I think is definitely, going forward, definitely needs way more training and education to all the school employees about that. And it was exciting because I got to hear from teachers that have been doing this now for 3 years. And so when they get together as teachers talking about a student, they're not just talking about English and reading and that, but they're trying to look beyond some of those things, and they're talking about trauma-informed and how they can address that and help that child and help the family. And it just helps them look through a different pair of glasses because of the training and the education that they have in that. Because sadly, probably 80%, and probably more than that, of kids have trauma or have had trauma in their lives. And so looking at that in a different way. So it was exciting, though, to see the excitement from the teachers and how they come together to talk about a student and the student's needs and how they address that. So anyway, I'm really glad I went. I enjoyed all the breakout sessions. But it wasn't quite kindergarten HR. It was, anyway, but it was supposed to be. Yeah. Yeah.
A couple notes on what Tammy shared. Ryan, correct me if I'm not wrong, but with the CNA, the high school and the college has actually worked together where high school students can get a CNA as.
Yeah, they come over from high school. Yeah.
So we do kind of have that. And just on a side note, in my job that I get paid for, I use Remind with my college-age employees, and it works quite well because they get the messages, and you're limited on how many characters, so they'll read it,
Yeah.
So it's very good.
I thought
fit.
that's cool.
Yeah.
I like that. Yeah.
So I also attended the convention, and I felt like it was better than it has been in some of the years past. I got some good information from it as well. One of the sessions I attended was discussing how school districts can collaborate with like city officials, colleges, county officials, to kind of pool our resources to save, we all have the same taxpayers supporting us. And so how we can be more resourceful in sharing those funds. One example, I think it was Andover. They worked with a retirement community in town and the rec center when they built a new gymnasium, and so retired citizens can use the walking trail above, and while the students are having PE in the gym below. And they've worked out the safety of that issue and all of that. So I thought that was interesting. And we kind of had discussions about how, like our district we built the football stadium. Our community college uses that facility, and so we work together. So we are kind of doing that, but I would be interested to see what we could do to expand that and see what we could do to work with the city and with the college to be better at pooling our resources or to take better advantage. One of the questions that came up was about if you could pool, if you could create an insurance group with city employees, district employees, college employees to get better premiums. One of the issues with that is that at any point, one of those entities could decide they want to pull out and not be a part of that. But the health insurance premiums for our employees is something that I know has been a concern of the board. And with the audit that we received at our last meeting, saying, and correct me if I'm wrong, Bill, but that we've got $5.5 million in that reserve. And to me, that seems a little high. And I'd like to see what we could do to bring that down. Dr. Dirksen shared with the board, he'd received some contacts, some information from the insurance agent that you had at your previous district, is that correct?
Yeah, the ESDAC Service Center has a pool. I think there's like 43 school districts that are a part of that pool for the same reason, the economy of scale. And I guess because I've been a past member, he sent me that information and I forwarded it to you. So I also just received a call from, I don't know who, Hugoton, and I think he said Garden City are involved in an insurance group. And whoever that is, that guy just called today, just a cold call, and he's coming through tomorrow, in fact, and wanted to meet with me. And I said, sure, I knew that was going to be a topic that came up tonight. So I'm open to anything because we need to find the best opportunity.
Right.
I think it's worth pointing out that for years, Dale Dennis has talked to superintendents across the state, and he always brags on the Wichita health plan because Wichita used to have what he called the Cadillac health plan, and that's falling apart now. It's not, and it just has to do with usage, and it has to do with the rising health costs, and they're having to come up with different programs, and so it's a difficult answer. There's never an easy answer, but
right.
Yeah, I would just like to, in our January meeting, to have a discussion about, because I think with the reserve we have, we can give our patrons, our employees, a rate break. They've done a great job. I mean, they've just done a phenomenal job to get that balance that high. And we just need to discuss that to give them some rate relief.
Bill?
We can do that pretty easily.
We can do that. We do have an insurance committee per our negotiated agreements. I think if that's the direction of the board, then we probably need to get that insurance committee together and talk to them, because I don't want us seeing, going off on our own, because I think that's one thing we want to work together on. We have through the tough times, and I think we should through the good times too. So
absolutely,
if that's the direction of the board, then I think we need to get the insurance committee together and have some conversation.
Absolutely, but I think just from conversations I've had with the board, we're pretty adamant about passing along some rate relief to the employees. So,
And I'd be interested, Dr. Dirksen, if you talk with this person tomorrow. I just kind of compared what that ESDAC, what they were offering, and just at first glance, it seems like we could save our employees maybe $200 a month on premiums, which would be like giving everybody a raise that was on health insurance. I mean, that seems like.
yeah, I will say this in defense of our program, because it has weathered us well, and trust me, a fully funded plan. When you have the bad years, they just wave bye to you. And our plan has served us well through some horrible years, I just really get concerned when we talk about a fully funded plan. where you're just, you have no leeway in your premiums. Because they were losing $1 million, $1.5 million, $2 million a year for 4 or 5 years, and they hung with us. So, because the patrons of it have done so well, we have that balance, and we can pass along some rate relief to them. But it's a business decision that we'll need to make.
There's several different issues, and I guess that's one of the questions that I'm going to ask the board. You know, we can look at fully funded plans, we can look at partially self-funded like we are today. Just other options, we can look at joining group, you know, so that there's a number of things on the table. It's not just either or. There's, you know, a number of options, and we can look as much as you want to.
Mm-hmm.
You're obviously the board, and you'll direct us. Is the interest, did you just kind of say some of the issues about fully funded? Do you want us to look at a fully funded plan or not?
I don't think there's any reason to do it now. I mean, you know, wait till renewal. When is it, October or July or, you know, sometime there?
What I heard Jeff saying is that he wants to talk to the committee and to us about rate relief at this point.
Yeah.
I mean, what
You
we
know, Brian does our insurance, so I called him and we were talking about our business. I said, the school district, what size should we have? What size reserve would you reserve? He said, and I respect him because we pay for all of ours, so we have to reserve in it, we have to budget, and he's always pretty spot on. He said about 2.5 to 2.8 is a good range for that reserve to be. So anyway, we just need to pass this along to the employees, so.
Be sure and tell him to watch TV tomorrow night to hear that he's being quoted on TV too, so I appreciate that.
Okay, do we have any other items for future board meetings or additional
I'd like to
information or
make mention
discussion?
real quick of something, since you brought up CNA and then you brought up Pathways at Blue Valley. Just to recognize Jackie real quick, I hope this is okay, Jackie. We've had a couple of 2 or 3 conversations as it relates to Pathways. Exploratory courses for high school students as it relates to college, and then creating a little bit more synergy as it relates to the pathways in our workforce programs as well as our academic programs. So we've been collaborating and working together. Jackie has some excellent ideas as it relates to the pathways as we move forward in the next couple of years. So we're also working on it here in our district. I'm really excited about it. High school does send over students to the college on a daily basis, normally during first block, third block, fifth block. It's about right, isn't it, Jackie? And so we'll continue to grow that relationship. But I wanted to say that Jackie's really on top of that, doing an excellent job with that, and at least as it relates locally here, because it'll be applicable to other universities and things as that as well. But as it relates locally, we'll really be doing some work together as we move forward on the pathways and those kind of different things. So.
That's good.
And I appreciate your willingness to help make this happen as well. It takes both sides to work together.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, Jackie.
Well, since we're talking about Jackie and how wonderful she is, when I was at the KASB convention, I was talking to a superintendent, and they said that she's not only one of the top in the state, but in the country. So we're very blessed to have her.
Absolutely.
And she can't go anywhere, so. All right, anything else? Okay, we need an executive session for discussion of personnel matters of non-elected personnel to protect the privacy interests of the individual. I would say 30 minutes and just the board, and then we'll have another one probably. Do we need that long? Is that too long?